On this channel, we provide a lot of content on how to become an instructional designer. But what happens when you get there? Are you going to be happy? Are you going to find work-life balance in this new role? Today, we're going to hear from 3 instructional designers who transition into instructional design, and we're going to find out if they're happy on the other side. Hello, I'm Sabrina. I'm an instructional designer and a bootcamp pro on Devlin's team. I'm at about the 1-year mark since landing my first instructional design opportunity, and my life is completely different than it was when I was teaching. You're going to hear a similar sentiment today from the instructional designers that we interviewed. We spoke with Tanya, Selena, and Sean, who worked with us through their transition, and we asked them how things have changed, any of the challenges they've faced, and are they happy as instructional designers? In our most recent survey, we asked instructional designers if they're satisfied with their work-life balance, and 92.8% said they are satisfied or very satisfied with their work-life balance. Let's see if Tanya, Selena, and Sean agree. Tanya Stillman is an instructional designer in the private sector, and she's been in her role for just over a year. Let's hear what she has to say.
So life before becoming an instructional designer in the K-12 arena was quite stressful. Not only was my job particularly stressful, but most of the adults around me were extremely stressed. And that would then, I would absorb some of that stress as well and take it home with me. Compared to what I do now, which is I work at home, I can set pretty much my own hours. I don't have a commute. I get to have my kitty boy sit on my lap throughout the day. He's my co-pilot in all of the virtual trainings I present. And my boss is super supportive. I work for a great company, a great software company, and we try to have fun in everything that we do. And so just the difference between that high stress environment and just being able to manage my life kind of on my own terms now, worlds apart between the two. So with regard to feeling valued as a team member in my current position, is vastly different than the position I left in K-12. Working at the district level, it was so political, and you couldn't make a move without feeling like potentially you were going to upset somebody or do something wrong. And today, my boss, she and I are a 2-member training team. We collaborate daily. She asks my opinion and respects my opinion. We bounce ideas off of each other. It's great to be on a team where we both contribute and we both feel like we can challenge each other without it becoming personal or political. Huge difference from working at the district level in a K-12 situation. The other thing that's really great about having this job is I can stop what I'm doing and go to the pharmacy if I need to. I can run out and get my hair cut if I need to. I have so much more flexibility with my personal life in this job than I did as a K-12 educator. Money isn't everything, but I think mental health is so important that I did take a cut in salary from my district position to take this job in the private sector, but I am making significantly more than I did as a elementary school teacher librarian. So financially, I'm doing okay. But then, of course, the time difference does balance out where I am making more money, but I am working more days. I don't get 2 weeks at Christmas. I don't get a week at Thanksgiving and spring break, and I don't have 2 months off during the summer, but that balances out for me with the added income and the lowered stress level. One of the great benefits of leaving K-12 education and working for the private sector is when I am done with my workday, I'm done. I don't bring work home with me. I don't work on the weekends. It's glorious. I can sit down at my desk at home at 7:15 in the morning, take a little half-hour lunch, I'm done at 3:45. The rest of the day is mine. I can get a little workout in. I can start a load of laundry. Even during the workday, I'll jump up from my desk and run down to the basement, start a little load of laundry, keep it going. At the end of the day, I'll fold my laundry and I'm good. It is such a great place to be, to have that flexibility in life, to take care of yourself and your family on your own time without worrying about papers to grade, lessons to plan, after school events that you have to attend. All of that is gone, and it's fabulous. The challenge in switching careers was that I knew what my job was when I left my K-12 education job. I knew what I needed to do. I was an expert in my field. And then I jumped into this new position in a software company where I didn't know anything. And that was pretty intimidating. There were moments of sweaty palms and shaking hands and beating heart when I was first training on this particular piece of software. And it was scary, but it made me stretch and it made me grow. But it wasn't easy. It's been a hard road. The first 6 months were very challenging, but now I finally feel like I'm contributing and I feel like I am becoming an expert in this particular field, and that I'm getting my wheels under me. So when you make that transition, just hang in there. It's scary at first, but it's going to be fine, and you're going to be fine. Am I happy in my job? I am absolutely happy in my job, feeling valued, supported, and like I'm contributing to make this company a better company, 100% better than being in K-12, where you never feel like you're quite doing enough and someone's always looking over your shoulder. Huge difference. Super happy.
I totally resonated with Tanya when she said mental health is so important. I left education to take care of my mental health, and I'm so lucky to have a job that allows me to prioritize myself and take care of myself. Thank you again, Tanya, for sharing your story, and I'm so glad to hear that you are absolutely happy as an instructional designer. Next up, we have Celina Bertoncini, who was an educator teaching children about digital art before she landed her role as an instructional designer. Take it away, Selena.
So coming from working in a classroom, I think the biggest difference is definitely the respect, just basic dignity. I don't know if that's a really intense answer, but when you're in a classroom, sometimes you feel like you have to almost be not human in a sense, because you have to kind of put on this persona, you are in charge, you're the authority, you have to be very serious, you have to have everything together. That is really exhausting. And if you're someone who has kids at home, or you have a certain role that you play in your household and stuff, and having to come home and do that, and it just feels like there isn't time to just be yourself, your true authentic, just human self. And I know that's a weird thing to say when related to work, because yeah, everybody at work has to kind of have a professional persona, and you have to talk a certain way or act a certain way. But I think especially when you're in a classroom and you are with young individuals, there is definitely a big difference and a lot more effort put into your persona and how you have to act and behave. Whereas, now when I work from home and I'm doing work, I'm treated like a professional, that I'm a professional adult doing work, and, have a meeting when I need to, or have deliverables when they need to be done. And there isn't all of this extra pressure put on me to act and behave a certain way for hours and hours of the day, and not be able to just run and go to the bathroom, or grab a snack, or just take a breather and stretch, get up from my chair, and just to be a person, have needs, and to have the trust that you're going to get the work done because you know yourself, you know your body best, you know how you work best, and you know your capacity. And so I get the work done that I need to get done. And that's kind of the best part for me about working virtually now, as opposed to like being in a classroom or an office or anywhere in person. It's a lot less exhausting in that sense. I can be myself. Learning design and creating learning experiences is something that I'm very, very passionate about. I absolutely love learning and I love teaching and I love educating. I absolutely love it. And when I had to do that in a classroom and create things and do all that stuff while also giving instruction in person, there was like no freedom. I didn't have any time. I had to work weekends. I had to work all night, all day. It was kind of crazy. And so I discovered instructional design just from like Googling things. I was just like, what are the ways that I can do education and not have to go into work? Like I could work from home or I could have more freedom. And a lot of the results I got were like instructional design. And I heard about, e-learning designers, instructional designers, people who are working from home, making learning experiences and doing all of those things that I love to do, but they had a lot more freedom and they had a lot more time because they were able to work from home. And because I just kept researching that, I finally was able to get into that field and get into working from home. And now that I'm working from home, I have all of this freedom that I can live wherever I want. I can move to different places and I can travel. And as long as I have Wi-Fi in my computer, I'm still able to do work and make an income. So it's been really amazing, that journey from having to like live near my school, work near my school, like everything has to be close by. Now I can just be wherever I want. And I'm very excited about that. I feel like my whole life, people who are close to me or friends of mine would describe me as just like a really happy, positive, like fun person. And I always really cherished that. And it wasn't until like I started working full time in like classrooms and stuff like that, that I just was not that person. And I didn't feel it anymore. And it was very sad. It was like just a very sad feeling to be like, I don't feel like that bright, sunny, happy person that I feel like I should be or that I am meant to be for myself. And once I started doing instructional design, working from home, and getting to have a little more freedom, I finally became more happy. I started to have a better mood. People around me were like, wow, you just seem like you're like glowing. Like you seem a lot happier. You seem like you're doing a lot better. And instructional design has had a huge impact on that. Like if I didn't have this career online, it would definitely, I would not be as happy as I am right now. So it's had a huge impact on my mood, my overall well-being, and just like even the way people perceive me. Because you don't even realize it until there's a change and people are like, wow, you seem a lot happier. You seem like you're in a better mood all the time. Especially the people that you see most often, and they definitely notice it. So it's not just me saying that I'm happier. People even notice it and they'll tell me that I look and seem happier and healthier. So yeah, definitely I'm much happier now as an instructional designer online for sure.
If you've ever been an educator, you know that feeling of always having to be on. When you feel like you have to perform every day, you start to lose yourself. I'm so happy for Selena that she has found a role that allows her to be her cheerful, authentic self. Thanks for sharing, Selena. Next up, we have Sean Anderson, and that name may sound familiar to you. He has been featured in a few videos on this channel. He joined us at our last live event, Beyond the ID Transition, and you've probably even seen his portfolio on the showcase. Before becoming an instructional designer, Sean was in the mental health field and an educator, and he's currently been in his role for about 2 years. Let's hear from Sean.
Certainly, my job satisfaction is significantly higher than many of my previous roles. I think that I've been fortunate enough to be in some pretty fulfilling lines of work. I've previously served as both a teacher, an educator, as well as a mental health professional. And in both cases, there's a lot of really direct impact, and you're really helping people, right? But unfortunately, there does come a lot of side effects and consequences of those types of positions that have like a lot of emotional investment. And unfortunately, primarily among them for teaching was the time commitment and time investment. There was a lot of after work hours being dedicated to the role, weekend hours, and that put quite a bit of a strain on myself emotionally, mentally, relationally with people around me. So that's what prompted the switch to find some career role that could provide a similar degree of fulfillment, or at least run in parallel to some of the skills I'd garnered in my last couple of roles, but also give me that balance. I had more time back in my life, and I use that time to invest in my hobbies, to invest in my relationships, to even invest in myself skill wise. Like I have more time to pursue self development and professional development, and to pursue even my work relationships, like being more emotionally available for coworkers, being more engaged at work, just because I have more energy on my hands than I did in my previous roles, where maybe as a teacher, as soon as the bell hit, try to wrap up so I can get home, as opposed to spend some time actually getting to know some of the people around me, because there just wasn't time. I didn't feel like I had that time. So I think really just having that amount of bandwidth back in my life, emotionally, mentally, and even just time wise, has really just led to a higher degree of satisfaction with my work. Just because even if maybe right now, we can talk about challenges later, I might not see the direct impact of the efforts as much as I did when I was counseling or teaching. But I have the other side of it where I can come in every day fresh and feel like I can give it all my all every day, but it's not going to completely zap me and take away from the other side of life, which is at home and being a husband, being a friend, being a son. So that's where I would say I get the most amount of satisfaction from my work right now. Time commitment in the past would range from, without hyperbole, 50, 60 hours a week, really. And that's on a good week, just because you have to work sometimes late if you have meetings and stuff after school, especially with students, parents, or grading, getting things done there and setting up for the next day. And then ultimately on the weekend was really the biggest time commitment, was the lesson planning for the weeks ahead and getting caught up on the work. So that would put me at around 60 hours usually on a good week. Now I really don't ever work past my 40 hours. I think I can count on my hand the amount of times I've had to work a little bit later in this role that I've been now a year and a half, probably 3 or 4 like later afternoons. And that's about it, really. Pay is considerably higher. I took a role knowing that there was probably even more room. I know that some instructional designers probably make even more than I do right now, but I really wanted an opportunity to learn and develop and really just get my foot in the door. And really, I was interviewing for obviously a pay increase, but also a team culture fit. And I really fell in love with the culture of the team. And I'm glad I made that choice, because the culture has been what was advertised. And I really love my coworkers. My managers would be the first to say that we're not necessarily the highest paid instructional designers in the world, but we do have a really good environment that keeps people in place. There's a lot of longevity there. And that's what was important to me after being in a lot of really high turnover roles, is finding obviously an increase in salary was great, but also somewhere where I can really grow and develop and see where the future takes me as an instructional designer. For me, the instructional design part, what's most fascinating about this role is just how many different types of positions there are and how they just vary across them. Like, I was just really excited to discover that we were creating training content for educators, for teachers. I work at an ed tech company. So we're trying to train and develop educators to be better practitioners with our software. And I thought that was fascinating. And so you still get to have that impact. It's a little bit different, but you do still get to impact people in a way that educators have in the past. And so I think that's the best part, is that you can still get some degree of that. Of course, it's never going to replace that aha moment of a student in a classroom. That is really one of the best parts of being a teacher, but it still is operating in kind of a parallel, right? That does give you the other benefits as well that we've talked about, such as the better balance and more time on your hands for other pursuits. I think everybody's satisfaction is going to differ, because satisfaction, I feel like, is ultimately derived from, from your values and what you cherish, right? For some, satisfaction is going to be the highest dollar amount that you can earn from somewhere else. For others, it might be feeling like you're, really intentionally connected with the end user and being able to see how they're learning and how they're interacting, which is something we talked about today. And for others, it might just be having a really strong work culture and having a great group of people that you're working with every day. So really, ultimately, I guess what I'd like to say about all of that is to really identify what you value the most, and to prioritize that value, and to make sure that when you're interviewing, right, and I know this isn't necessarily about just transitions, but when you're interviewing, to find a position that really also similarly matches those values. Because one of the challenges that I faced in transitioning, and when I've talked to others, is that we almost feel like we're being lucky to be interviewed, or we're being lucky to be offered an opportunity. But instead, it should also be that you're also interviewing that place. And if you're ultimately trying to transition to arrive at a better position in life, then it's really important to make sure that you're interviewing based upon those values and what you're seeking for. So I think satisfaction ultimately is going to look different for folks, but to try to really hone in on what that is and to try to find that as much as possible in the roles. I know that there are some challenges when we're interviewing and trying to transition, but to still, at least embolden yourself so that you're willing to ask those questions and to find out a little bit more information when it comes to the things that you really care about in a role.
Hearing Sean talk about his work-life balance is inspiring. As a teacher, I wish somebody would have told me that working 60 hours a week on a good week was not the norm. Thank you for sharing your story, Sean, and I'm so happy to hear that you are significantly happier as an instructional designer. So, are instructional designers happy? Relatively speaking, I'd say yes. Any job is going to come with its challenges, but finding a role that allows you to prioritize what's important to you is where you're going to find job satisfaction and happiness. As an instructional designer, you can still make an impact. You can be your authentic self, and you can have the freedom to take care of yourself. Selena, Tanya, and Sean all worked with us in the Instructional Design Bootcamp to become instructional designers. We'd love to have you join us in the ID Bootcamp to let us help you achieve freedom and flexibility as instructional designers. To learn more, go to idbootcamp.com. If you're not ready to join the bootcamp, then go ahead and download the free Become an ID checklist. And thank you again to Selena, Tanya, and Sean. It was so inspiring to hear your stories. Thank you for sharing. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.